How are you feeling this evening?
Well, Kaylee, I'm delighted that we're at the end of this saga. I know there's still pieces of it to go, but I think this is a big milestone.
Well, it's a milestone certainly for these Bitcoin products, but it also raises a question of what sort of precedent this sets. If you look at the statement from the chairman, Gary Gensler, he was very specific that this is specific to these Bitcoin products, which are non-security commodities. And there is a question of what this could mean in the future for essentially everything else. Is that door completely closed?
The chair is right to point out that this is specific to a particular set of products. But obviously precedent matters, and so you look at the reasoning, and people will do this. They'll look at the reasoning in the order, and they'll seek to apply it to other facts and circumstances as appropriate. So I think the only thing I will say is that one of my complaints in this area has been that we haven't always stuck with precedent when it comes to these kinds of exchange-traded products. We haven't necessarily applied the same standards that we do with respect to other kinds of exchange-traded products, but it is a precedent people will point to.
That's the question, of course, we're all asking, whether it opens the door for other ETFs backed by other cryptocurrencies. Commissioner, is that in our near future?
Again, every application has to be considered on its facts and circumstances, but one of the things that I think that we have to acknowledge is that when we apply a particular rationale to one particular product, people will ask us to apply it to other products as well.
Well, and there also is the question, Commissioner, of just the use of these products once they do begin trading as expected tomorrow. What kind of fiduciary responsibilities are there for investment advisors for their clients before allowing them to put money into these products?
It's like anything else. A fiduciary is supposed to look out for the interests of the investors that she's working with. And that means taking into account the specific circumstances of that investor, the risk tolerance, the other elements of that investor's portfolio. And so it's not a cookie cutter answer one way or the other. Fiduciaries are paid to make good decisions that are appropriate for that particular investor.
There were a few moments yesterday when we thought this had been approved a day earlier, Commissioner. As you well know, everything worked out with the Twitter account at the SEC?
Well, it is. I mean, there was a statement, I think, that came out saying that we are going to be looking into this and working with law enforcement authorities to figure out how this happened, how yesterday's event happened, and I hope that we get to the bottom of it, and I hope that we're as transparent when we explain what happened as we expect the companies that we regulate to be when they experience a similar event.
Well, that certainly has gotten the attention of many on Capitol Hill, Commissioner. There have been many congressional Republicans who have made their opinions known about the SEC under this chair for some time now, who have called a lot of attention to yesterday's events. I'd also point to a statement that we got out from that House Financial Services Committee after this. They maintain that while legislation to provide clarity and certainty for digital assets remain necessary, the steps taken today are a significant improvement over what they call the SEC's track record of regulation by enforcement. Until that legislation exists, even with these approvals aside, should we expect that regulation by enforcement to continue?
Well, I haven't seen much progress on us as a regulator setting out clear rules of the road when it comes to crypto products and services. And I think that that's been a complaint that I've had. It's been a complaint that others have had. We could, just as we changed our tune here, we could change our tune on that. And so I remain hopeful that we will. That said, Congress has expressed an interest in legislating in this area, and I look forward to seeing their work in this area. And they have a clear interest in figuring out which regulators should have authority in this area. And I look forward to seeing what comes of that.
As do we, Commissioner, as do we. Obviously, while we're waiting for that, a lot will just depend on the actions of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And in addition to a lot of these enforcement actions, if you will. There are also just questions around fraud and manipulation. The argument initially about what Chair Gensler was so concerned with about these products in the first place, spot products specifically compared to futures. Obviously, a court has ruled that that distinction was arbitrary and capricious. But do you share any concern now that these products are approved? The deed is done. These things are going to trading, especially in light of the instance we saw yesterday in which prices moved on false information. Do you think that more investors, institutional or otherwise, now could fall into something potentially here that could be damaging given how volatile this market has proven to be and how potentially easily it can move?
If people put out false information about a traditional security, a traditional company, the stock of that company the price can also move. So this is not unique to Bitcoin or Bitcoin exchange traded products. Obviously, we will continue to look at the markets and at the markets for these Bitcoin exchange traded products specifically. And if there is bad activity, it's within the ETP marketplace, we have authority there to investigate and bring enforcement actions as needed.